This is interesting.
Welcome, everybody, to the regularly stated meeting of the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. This is the meeting for Thursday, February 15th, 2024. This is to formally advise that is required by General Law, Chapter 30A, Sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021, as extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. The Yarmouth Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted above. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided on the notice meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. Our first order of business is a request for determination of applicability. Matthew York for York Building and Remodeling for Michael and Janet Leopard, 49 Nantucket Avenue, is a proposed 22 by 18-foot addition and land subject to coastal storm flowage. Is Matt York here? I don't see anybody. So I will
There's
table
a
that.
hand up in the Zoom.
Gene Bowden.
Is it Jen Bowden?
Yes, hi, Jean. Here
Jean?
we are.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't do something right. Can you hear me now?
We can, are you here for the request for determination?
I am. I'm here for Matt York, York Building Remodeling, and the owners for him.
You want to hear it?
Can you hear me? Because I can
Hold
call.
hold on for just a minute, ma'am, please.
Yeah, I'd say yes. It's so simple, right?
Okay, good?
Yeah.
All right, Gene, go ahead. Generally speaking, we don't allow the presenters to be over Zoom. We'd like to see them in person.
Oh, they
because
didn't
we
tell
have
me
technical
that, or
issues.
I would have made my way up there. I didn't know that. I'm very sorry.
Well, that's okay. If you want to go ahead, we're going to make an exception since you're the homeowner.
Thank you.
So.
Well, I'm not the homeowner, but that's okay. I'm helping the homeowner and Matt York with this. But I did all the paperwork, and I've been working with Brittany on this.
Okay, so,
So this is basically an addition to, we have a building permit in, and because it's in a flood zone, we had to get a request for determination, and I had great help from Brittany, and it's to add to the existing small ranch house. That's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house with a deck, and they want to add a bedroom addition with a full bathroom and a walk-in closet, which is 396 square feet at 18 by 22. The basement is going to be unfinished, and you know, basically it's on a 10,019 square foot lot, and we would just like to increase this square footage to 1,266 square feet, which would make it a more livable home. And it's not near any wetlands as far as, you know, it's just the flood zone that brings us here.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the commission? Brittany?
No.
Anybody in the audience on this one? Anybody on Zoom who has any questions or comments for this project for 49 Nantucket Ave? I see none, so unless there's any further discussion among the commission, would somebody like to make a motion for a -2?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right.
Thank you.
Gene- So Gene, thank you. We're all set.
I appreciate this, and I will next time be right there right in the audience with you next time we do one of these. Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thank you.
I didn't know that. Thank you.
All right, next order of business is notice of intent, Cape and Islands Engineering for Eric Moore, 26 Glenwood Street, proposed raise and replacement of single-family dwelling with new septic and buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and coastal bank. Chuck?
Can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
Chuck Rowland, Cape and Islands Engineering. I'm representing the owners of 26 Glenwood Street in West Yarmouth. I'm kind of filling in for Mark Dibbs, who is the engineer of record, but I am also a professional civil engineer. So I think we have a fairly straightforward project in front of you tonight. The applicant has filed a notice of intent application for the proposed raising of the existing single-family dwelling with a reconstruction of a home, deck, and associated appurtenances, and constructing and maintaining a two-story single-family dwelling. Relocated stone steps, a rinse station, extended gravel driveway, lawn, along with utilities, a new Title V septic system, and all associated appurtenances. This filing's been done under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and is implemented in the regulations 310, CMR 10, as well as the Town of Yarmouth Wetland Bylaw 143, Section 2, and associated regulations. We have the proposed activities which will occur within the coastal watershed areas within 100 feet of land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, BVW, vegetated wetlands, and Yarmouth coastal watershed areas. So just to run through the performance standards of the proportion of the existing residential home, lawn, landscaping, and pavers are located within the 100-foot buffer to the BVW. We are off-site of the BVW, as the BVW is on the parcel to the west.
You here for this?
And then we also have a flood zone that is off our property, and then the flood zone that's on our property is the 100-year, beyond the 100-year flood zone, so it's the 500-year flood zone. The proposed deck is 38 feet from the coastal bank, but we are proposing the deck, which is the closest feature to the wetland, 73.9 feet from the BVW. The existing leach pits located at the back of the house will be pumped and filled, and the septic will be put to the front yard, which meets the Title V requirements. We have no removal of vegetation, of native vegetation, as part of the project in the 100-foot buffer. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, questions from the board?
Give me a minute. Yeah, I have a question. I guess I'll start.
Okay.
When we were out there on Monday, it seemed that the owner went beyond their, where their land ends, and has some disturbance within the 50-foot buffer, as well as, it looked like perhaps some dumping.
Yeah, obviously I can't speak to who cleared it and when, who dumped it and where, but I can definitely bring that up to the client. That is, cannot happen anymore.
And do we need mitigation for this?
So-
Yes.
Yes, we do.
I will make sure I bring that up, but, so you're saying that's because you're within the 50 feet to the coastal bank?
And the 100, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you've got an awful lot of lines here on this plan, but it's 50 to the coastal bank and still within the 100 to the BVW, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so you need mitigation. So, I mean, we'll need to see a revised plan that shows those mitigation areas and what you're planning on proposing for that.
Okay.
And then a mitigation calculation table as well for 50 and 100, for the 50 and 100 foot.
Anybody else?
You covered it.
I was wondering, where are you going to put the water coming out of the roof, where you're going to build?
We can definitely implement some dry wells, if that's what you're referring to. Looks like a fairly stable site because this pitch is so gradual, and my understanding is that the soils are, have really good permeability, so it's usually something that when you kind of hit a little over 3 or 4 to 1, you really don't, on small projects like this, you don't really worry about runoff, but if it's an issue with this commission, we can.
I would say just at least one for the rinsing station that's within the 50 for that shop rinsing station.
Okay, anybody else?
No.
David, you're good?
Yeah, he's already explained what's happening through the old leaching pit, so yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Brittany, anything else?
Yeah, I guess we just ask that they put a marker of some kind on their property boundary so that they stop working off of their property, because that is on top of the coastal bank itself, and so within the no disturb zone.
Because it's, what is it, it's hospital, is it hospital property?
Yeah, it's the hospital bog property.
Sure, yeah, we can add demarcation to prevent or discourage disturbance off the property.
That's all I have.
All right, well, I think I'd like to see the plan come back so we can look at the mitigation areas and the mitigation table, so I'm thinking we'd continue it, correct?
2 to 1.
Yeah, and so just make sure, and make sure
2 to
they're
1.
following the current standards, okay, the current guidelines.
Sure.
Anybody in the audience on this one? Anybody on Zoom? All right, let's see, 2 weeks, is that enough?
There's a third week.
Oh, 3
in-
weeks?
Yeah, February. So March 7th is our next.
Chuck?
I will, so either I or someone from the office will be here, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, and what was the date again?
March 7th.
7.
March 7th, okay.
When does
so
he need the new plan by?
You bring one.
The first.
This is the 1st of March. Okay.
Just want to make sure he knew.
Perfect.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to continue to March 7th?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Chuck. All right, next order of business is a request for a certificate of compliance. We have one SE 83-2038, 29 Scallop Road. There are no issues with this, so do I have a motion to continue, or yeah, a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for SE 83-2038?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
You do the meeting minutes first if you want.
Hmm?
You can do the minutes before the bylaw,
Oh,
so
okay.
we don't forget them.
All right, I'm going to take things slightly out of order here. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 1st, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we have come to other business section of the agenda. We have one item under that title for the wetland bylaw update. This was last revised on April 15th, 1987. The wetland bylaw is proposed for replacement in its entirety with the updated bylaw. The proposed update includes adding vernal pools as a jurisdictional area to improve protection of wildlife habitat. It moves certain provisions from the wetland protection regulations to the general bylaw, and it clarifies and modernizes the language to better communicate the goals of the bylaw. This bylaw update will be on the warrant for special town meeting on April 30th, 2024. So with that, Brittany.
For those of you in person, there's a summary of changes and the bylaw itself, if you wanted to grab a hard copy for review. Those online, they're both available on the website. So for our proposed update to the wetland bylaw, I don't know why it started there. Like Ed said, it was last amended in 1987, so it's overdue for an update. Our intent is to modernize the language, clarify procedures and goals, and add vernal pools as a protected resource area. We copy many of the provisions from the regulations into the bylaw for clarity, and just to get an idea of how long the Conservation Commission has been working on this since 2021. We developed it using an analysis of the existing bylaw and its regulations, our current protection of resource areas, and identified additional areas that would benefit from protection. We analyzed our current practices and public comment from all of our public meetings held in the fall of 2023 when we had our first draft of this bylaw. We also implemented staff comment and review and consultation with town council lawyers. There's a template out there developed by the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners that's widely used in the state, and it's a model wetland bylaw that was modified to reflect Yarmouth's specific needs. And just to clarify the difference between the bylaw and the regulations, the bylaw is what outlines all of the laws that are then further elaborated on with detail in the regulations. The town bylaw is allowed to be more strict than the Wetlands Protection Act that the state is governed by. So the State Wetlands Protection Act protects 8 public interests or values that resource areas provide. And in this update, one of the changes is that we're seeking to recognize 3 additional of those interests or values. And those 3 are rare species habitat, including rare plant and animals, agriculture and aquaculture, and resilience to climate change. So the rare species habitat is directly related to what we're seeking to protect in vernal pools. So this expands on the existing protection that we have under the Wetlands Protection Act for wildlife habitat, and it's expanding it to include rare plants and animals in upland areas, which are not protected currently. Recognizing that agriculture and aquaculture are an important value that can be provided, and their existing exemptions under the Wetlands Protection Act will remain. And finally, resilience to climate change. So we're facing a lot of different things that were not as obvious in 1987, and climate change can have drastic negative impacts on both our built and natural environment. So adding a value to recognize that these resource areas can provide resilience and mitigation for climate change can help mitigate the negative impacts of climate change and help us adapt to future conditions, especially as sea levels rise. Our next change is proposing to add vernal pools. So vernal pools are seasonal pools of water that provide important wildlife habitat for distinctive plants and animals. And under the current state law, the Wetlands Protection Act, these are only protected when part of another resource area or when they're certified by the Division of Fish and Wildlife. So many vernal pools are outside of existing wetland areas and don't have any protections currently, so they remain vulnerable to destruction and damage from development and other activities. The reason why we want to protect these vernal pools is they're hotspots for life and biodiversity, and certain species such as spotted marble salamanders, wood frogs, and fairy shrimp need these ephemeral pools to complete their life cycles. Some of these species found in these pools are rare, and so it's important that we help maintain these habitats. There's also evidence to support that they're keystone ecosystems and that their role in the landscape is essential and disproportionate to their small size. And so in this photo, you can see the difference of a vernal pool in the spring and in the fall, so that this one is not located in a wetland, so it's currently unprotected, although it can support many rare species. So Yarmouth is currently only 4 of 15 Cape Cod towns that don't currently protect important vernal pools. So we're seeking to increase our standards and protect these important areas. And research shows that species use the area up to 600 feet outward from a vernal pool, so that essential habitat is used in addition to the pool to complete their life cycles. Video. And the rest of the additions that you'll find in the changes in the wetland bylaw update are replications from the existing regulations that are just copied from the regulations and put into the bylaw. This can be valuable to have a little bit of redundancy between those two documents to provide procedural clarity and consistency for all of our applicants. This can help make it much clearer whether an application is needed, what type of permit they need, and it helps our applicants submit successful applications for the Conservation Commission to review. So who and what will be impacted? So only new projects will be affected once the bylaw goes into effect. Projects with open permits in the form of a negative determination or an order of condition won't be impacted unless they're proposing changes to their current project in the form of a request for a plan revision or an amendment. And bylaw revisions would go into effect after a positive approval at town meeting, and then they also have to be approved by the Attorney General and posted by the town clerk. And that time limit is 90 days for the Attorney General to approve it and 30 days for the town clerk to submit it. So it can be a little bit of a while for it to go into effect if it is approved at town meeting. And our next steps after this public meeting here tonight, we'll take into account any of our public comment here, and we anticipate presenting at the select board meeting on either February 27th or March 12th. Look out for a video in the coming spring for more of a description on the bylaw updates, as well as an update on our local vernal pools. They become active in early April, so it'll be close to town meeting when that video comes out. And of course, town meeting is on Tuesday, April 30th, and we'll take any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you, Brittany. All right, first, let me go to the board. Does any of the board have any questions or comments about the bylaw?
Well done.
Yep.
Okay. Paul, did you say yes or?
No,
You're good. All right. Anybody in the audience would like to ask questions or have any comments? Have we done are you accepting any written comments on anything too tonight or?
I haven't received any written comment, but I am accepting written comment.
Okay. All right. So would anybody like to make any comments? Okay, if you would just go up to the podium and then if you would state your name and address for the record.
I'm Patty Prevost. I'm at 24 Crow Street, South Yarmouth.
You just spell your name, I'm sorry.
It's Patty, P-A-T-T-I.
Yeah,
My last name's Prevost, P-R-E-V like Victor, O-S-T like Tom.
thank you.
I'm just wondering, how do you determine what is or what isn't a vernal pool? And are there already vernal pools that we know about? And I guess the determination would be the biggest thing for that. And if you could just expand a little bit about how only the new projects are affected. You said unless there's a request for a plan revision or amendment, who would that request be from, and how would that work?
So I'll do that one first. So if you have an open permit, it's already gone through the approvals of the board through the regulations at that time. So this bylaw wouldn't affect any open orders if you have a permit already,
A permit or an order of conditions?
yeah. And so if you wanted to make a revision, those revisions come to the board anyway. But since the bylaw, if the bylaw is in effect by then, they would be considering the amendment only under the bylaw as well, not the original project.
Gotcha. Okay, that's my only questions.
Okay,
vernal
and
pool.
And how do you determine a vernal pool?
so the vernal pools would have to be determined by someone who has proper experience. So they would have to have, I'm struggling.
So there's no certification for it, but I'm sorry, there's no certification for the person who does it, but you do have to have some sort of a background
Professional.
in wetland science and wetland wildlife as well. So it's normally somebody who does, it's either like somebody like Brittany, who's the conservation administrator. Sometimes it's a wetland if somebody who specializes in wetland delineations. But you have to have some sort of knowledge about, working knowledge on vernal pools and vernal pool wetland and wetland wildlife. There are very set specific criteria that allow you to determine whether or not a vernal pool exists. So partly based on hydrology, partly based on whether or not there's an inflow or outflow to the proposed or the potential vernal pool. There has to be no fish populations within the pool, but there do have to be certain types of wildlife. So if there's a fairy shrimp or wood frogs, tree frogs, all are considered indicator species of vernal pools. If you see fairy shrimp, it's automatically considered a vernal pool because fairy shrimp only live in vernal pools. So there's a process for making those identifications. Then we would typically submit that to the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. It's part of the state Wildlife Fishery Division, and they will review all of that information. And then, if all of the boxes are checked for certification, they will go ahead and certify the vernal pool. Okay, so it's a series of checks and balances all along the way. So it's not one person can't just say it's a vernal pool because I think it's a vernal pool.
Yeah. Would you mind keeping your questions so that the people online can hear?
So who brings up the question of whether something is a vernal pool or not? A
So-
homeowner, or do they bring it to you and say, hey, we think this is a vernal pool?
Yeah, so the burden of proof is on the applicant, but there is a map showing the location of potential vernal pools that have not been investigated yet, and that is on the Mass GIS, and we'll make that available on our website as well. So there's a map of places that may be vernal pools, but there are many areas that may be vernal pools that aren't on the map, and so we would just have to go by evidence from, if the homeowner has lived there for a long time, they would know. Like, if you're hearing spring peepers every spring, like, there's a good chance that you might have a vernal pool, but you might still not. So it's that evidence that has to be provided by the applicant or confirmed by the commission.
6A.
Okay.
Maybe you could tell the typical size of the water when it's there, maybe.
There's no typical size. They can range from this pool here. Oops. This pool is dry in the fall and full in the spring. And this pool it always contains water. So even though it always contains water, there's still no fish. So it's still a vernal pool. So there's a lot of variation. They can look like ponds. They can look like nothing. But there's also exemptions. So you're never going to have a vernal pool in your lawn or driveway. So you don't have to worry about that, or any existing roadway. So they're not going to appear where they've never been before.
Right.
But yeah, there is that helpful map that we will use.
Okay, and I can find that map online?
Yeah, it's the Mass GIS, and the layer is just called potential vernal pools, and it'll be on our website tomorrow.
Wonderful.
And I will just to reemphasize what Brittany already said, if you look at that map and you see that there, if you go to the potential vernal pools and you see, oh, my property doesn't have any potential for it, it doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't vernal pools.
Right,
It's just
right.
that they haven't been identified as a potential site. So-
Right, right.
And even if the same goes for if you see a vernal pool on your property, it's not necessarily that it's there. So I mean, this is definitely anecdotal, whereas science goes, but we surveyed 12 potential vernal pools last spring, all on town-owned property, and only 6 of them ended up being vernal pools. So anecdotal evidence, it could be or it could not be. It's just, there's no way to know unless it's springtime when we can analyze them.
Right. All right, thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, would anybody else like to?
Hi, Annie Cooper, 12 Highland Street, West Yarmouth. Sort of related to what the lady asked, if you've got a body of water in back of your house, but you're not sure, like I'm not sure, is it a creek, is it a stream, is it an estuary? Can I ask you to come out, or do I have to get someone to tell me, or do I start to look it up? What?
Yeah, so if you're applying for a project or applying for a permit, it is your responsibility to provide the burden of proof to say whether it's a creek. I mean, I can give you my general opinion, but it would be under the applicant to provide that by hiring a professional.
Okay, because there seems to be, if I read this correctly, in the 143/2 jurisdiction, something like an estuary is, and the resource area is out to a distance of 100 feet, but then perennial rivers, streams, brooks, and creeks, it's out to 200 feet.
That's
So
correct.
that's a significant difference, right?
But that's not, that's always been like that. So that's not a change, but yes, perennial rivers and streams have a 200-foot riverfront area instead of the traditional 100-foot. And that was passed in the Rivers Act in 1996.
96, yeah.
So
Rivers,
a perennial stream.
brooks, and creeks, all
Yeah,
of those.
so perennial rivers and streams have to be flowing for a certain period of time, and they can only be proven that they're not perennial streams by providing evidence of the stream not flowing for 4 days in a 1-month period, I think.
In a non-drought period.
Yeah,
right?
so there's explanations of how to disprove a perennial stream exists in the
See.
state
And if
Wetlands
there's a
Act.
stream or creek or whatever it's determined to be, that changes size massively because of tides or, at certain times of the year, what does that become? Does that become something different, like a pond? I mean, if it almost is pond-like in size, it just
Yeah.
goes,
So, I mean,
bigger, gets smaller, gets bigger and smaller.
tidal streams do also have specific definitions outlined in the Wetlands Protection Act to show whether or not it would be a pond, and the boundary would be the mean high water line. So it's not the highest high tide, not the lowest low tide. It would be the mean high water would be the boundary of the river.
And so that would be, okay. So that would be a pond at certain times of year and possibly an estuary or creek at others? It's just so confusing.
No, it would only be one of those things.
Right.
And it wouldn't be different at any given time.
All right. So the basis of the definition is what it is when it's, not at its largest, and then,
Yeah, so it's not,
Yeah,
so if a river is flooding, we don't take, it wouldn't be you wouldn't be taking a buffer off of off the flooded
Right,
portion of the river,
just-
from the bank.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
typically with rivers, it's the bank that starts the jurisdiction, the 200-foot jurisdiction. And it's to understand that it doesn't say that you can't do anything within the 200 feet. It just means that there are permitting that you would have to go through depending on where the activity is that your proposed activity is being proposed.
okay.
So it's not to say, no, you can't do anything within 200 feet. It's just, if you're within 200 feet, you have to file some sort of.
You have to go in front of-
Permitting with
Yeah.
conservation.
Okay, all right, that's clearer. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom have any comments or questions about the bylaw?
his.
I don't see anything on there. Any further discussion or comments from the board?
Thank you, no.
Okay, the only thing we have to do is,
Yeah, so Chairman Hoops identified a place that the board wishes to add a single word to the bylaw. And section 143.7G,
Did you say 143 what?
143.7G, in the last sentence. On the fifth line, it says proper safeguards, adequate security, and professional monitoring and reporting to assure success as may be required in the regulations. Chairman Hoops identified that it should read and professional installation. So adding the word installation, comma, monitoring and reporting to assure success.
we're adding the word installation, comma.
Installation, comma.
After the word security.
After the word,
Professional,
no, after
in
the
line 5.
So that was the only recent update.
Comma. Good with it.
Okay, unless there's any further questions from the from the public or anything, any more discussion among the board.
Sure why the other couple is out there. Just,
Maybe they're just curious.
They didn't, yeah, they didn't.
right? No, I think we're.
We're good?
Make a
Okay, so
motion.
we don't need anything, right? We don't need to vote on this, we just.
Yeah, I
read
mean,
it.
you should vote to send it to the Board
Okay,
of
so
Selectmen.
would somebody like to make a motion to accept the bylaw, including the one-word bylaw change that we just discussed?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we have, thank you, Rick, you'll second,
Who,
Pat,
Pat,
and then Rick.
thank you.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. So we'll be sending it on to the Board of Selectmen next, correct?
Yeah, the Select Board, I misspoke as well.
Select Board, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I have to get used to these sorts of things. All right, thank you very much, people. Do we have anything else? Do we have any other business not reasonably assumed to happen or occur?
Do I have other business?
Has the water resources been since,
Can you use your microphone?
Use the microphone.
when was the water resource advisory? Was it,
First Monday of the month, so
okay, you've already on that.
Be on the lookout. We chose a date for the annual town cleanup. It will be April 20th. The rain date will be the Sunday, April 21st. And more information will come on that soon. Stay tuned.
We might want to partner with you on that.
Okay, I don't know what that
Talk to you
means.
about that.
And just for a heads up, I won't be here March 21st for that meeting.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Stanley?
Nothing else? Right, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded?
Jack.
Jack. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous. We stand adjourned at 5:38 PM.
wow.